You guys want to know something insane? I spent an entire year studying for the LSAT, and at least half of it was a complete waste of time. Looking back on it, I realized I'd gotten bogged down in prep companies overcomplicating things with all these different types of logical reasoning questions. I started off with a cold diagnostic in the low 150s. I stayed there for far too long doing textbooks that had fake LSAT questions, and the prep tests themselves weren't helping either. Eventually, I did every single prep test ever released and brought my score from the low 150s to practice test scores in the mid to high 170s, got my 175 on LSAT test day. And looking back on it, and I realized that the overcomplication with the different question types was completely getting me confused. Instead, I had to understand the argument. And if I did that, the question became easy. So this led me to create what I now call the Socratic review method. It is a framework that guides students through how to review better, how to extract the key takeaways from your review of any LSAT question giving you trouble, whether you got it right or wrong, helping you develop a more efficient approach. And the way it works is this. You systematically go through every element of the question giving you trouble. If your mistake stemmed from the stimulus, what about the stimulus, meaning the argument of the logical reasoning question, what about that threw you off? What was confusing about it? Maybe it was that you had difficulty identifying the conclusion when LSAT failed to include a key indicator word to letting you know, hey, this is the conclusion. Maybe the conclusion was buried in the middle of the argument when you're used to it being either at the beginning of the argument or at the end of the argument. Maybe LSAT used annoying or confusing words like except, unless, until, and without that are not clearly necessary condition indicators or sufficient condition indicators. Maybe your mistake was in not recognizing the proper question type because LSAT was using unfamiliar wording to refer to a given question type. Or maybe your mistake came from the answer choices. Maybe it was a tempting wrong answer choice that threw you off, or maybe it was an unappealing right answer choice that distracted you and discouraged you from choosing that choice. And so you want to figure out, if this was the case, what was tempting about the wrong answer choice that made you pick it, and then upon reflection, what ultimately makes it wrong, or what was unappealing about the right answer choice that discouraged you from choosing it, and what ultimately makes it correct, because you have these patterns of encouragement towards the wrong answer and traps of discouragement away from the right answer. And until you understand which tricks and traps you personally are uniquely prone to falling for, you can't help but end up making the same mistakes again, because the LSAT, of course, repeats itself. The window dressing of the topic may be different from question to question, but the underlying method of reasoning will be constant. And so if you are not clear on necessary versus sufficient conditions, or if you are not clear on causation arguments, or you are not clear on some unfamiliar, bizarre, confusing method of reasoning, then you will just make that same mistake again when it shows up in a different disguise on a future LSAT prep test. And so what we do at LSAT Unplugged, through our one-on-one coaching program, through our live online classes via Zoom, is we walk you through this process, helping you learn how to learn better, because of course, we'll be able to help you on the release practice test questions, but on test day itself, it's going to be you in there in the arena battling whatever LSAT questions LSAT throws your way. And so it pains me so much when I see students falling into the trap of taking test after test, measuring their results, being happy or sad about them, and then moving on to the next. And so if you'd like my help in walking through this process, you can check out the links below the video to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Of course, with the old LSAT format, there were roughly 94 numbered prep tests and a handful more that were unnumbered. Now, in the new format, for those taking the LSAT in August and beyond, there are only roughly 60 LSAT prep tests, because LSAT had to, of course, remove the logic game section. As a result, they kind of divvied up and sliced and diced the different remaining LSAT material to give you fewer LSAT practice tests, but in the new format with scaled scores out of 180. What this means is that if you are dedicated to your LSAT prep, there are only 60 exams for you to walk through. Might sound like not a lot if you're new to the LSAT. If you're not so new to it, then you're well aware that you'll go through those LSAT questions faster than you might think. So make sure that you're not just taking practice tests, churning and burning through valuable material, but instead you're slowing it down, reviewing in depth. If you'd like my help, feel free to reach out. And in the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.